Welcome back, kindergarten. Today we are going to focus on the background. Even if you didn't have time to finish the cake and even if you didn't have time to do your frosting, we're going to go ahead and get this big area of white taken care of, and then if you have time we can go ahead and finish off any details. So we're going to use a lot of the skills that we use to do the cake painting and the frosting painting. And we're going to be starting off with our smaller brush again because we want to outline everything that we're going to be painting in. So today we're going to be painting around our donut, the whole thing, and we're going to just be outlining the inside of our box. This just gives us a really nice wall to say, hey, we need to keep our paint inside of this shape. Now, just like Andy Warhol, we want to be changing the colors up every single square. So my first square is going to be a different color than my second, third, and fourth. Another helpful tip is we want to stay away from colors we've already used in this square. So I already used tan and I already used yellow. So you can use any other color but yellow and tan. One thing that I like to do is I like to go, if I have a warm color for my frosting, I like to go to a cold color. So I could either use turquoise, green, blue, or purple. And I'm going to go ahead and use blue because it's a color I haven't used at all on this entire project. And when we're repeating images, it can get really boring if we're using the same picture and the same colors. Just like before, we're just going to dip just the tip. Remember, we don't need a lot of paint right now because we're just going around the outside. Once we're done outlining, then we'll get a bigger brush and we'll use more paint. So just like we did when we were doing our frosting and our cake, we're going to go slow and we're going to outline the entire donut. Remember, once you start seeing speckles of white from your paintbrush, that means that most of the paint is off, and you can go ahead and get more. So once you're done outlining the donut, I'm going to outline the box so that I know where I'm going to stay with this color blue. So I'm going to do the bottom of my box, and there's a nice helpful line to follow. Remember, once you run out of paint on one side of the brush, you can always flip it over and there's still paint on that side too. So now I'm doing the inside line because I want to make sure that I am blocking myself from going into the next box. So we don't need to worry about outlining the outside or the top because the paper is done. There is no more paper to paint, so if you go off, it'll just get on our cardboard, which is totally fine. So we are completely done with this little brush, so next we're going to go ahead and wash it quick. To wash off our brush, since we're done using the small one, remember any paint that's on it, we want to get that off first. It's kind of like having mud in your hair. We want to get the mud out before we start worrying about putting any shampoo or rinsing out. So I'm just going to gently pull and lift my brush until almost all the paint is gone. And now I can go inside of my cup and I can paint the bottom of the cup, maybe 10, 15 circles. I can get the water off and I can dry it over here where it's nice and dry. And if it's not making any blue marks, I will go ahead and I will spike up my hair, and I'll just move this off to the side because I'll probably need it when we do the next square. Once we've outlined, now we can start using more paint and a bigger brush. So I'm going to use the exact same color, just the blue. And now I'm going to use a bigger brush because I have a bigger area to paint in. That doesn't mean you need to scoop with it. A bigger brush is already going to give you more paint just by still dip, dip, just the tip. When we paint, remember we pull, lift, and we want to spread the paint out as far as it'll let us. And even with that small amount, just by spreading it until my brush is pretty much dry, I covered a lot of area, so I can go in and get some more. And I'm just pulling, lifting, pulling, lifting. It's going to help the hairs on our brush stay nice so that when we're painting, we have more control and our hairs aren't sticking out all over the place. So now that my background is all done, I can go ahead and I can wash this brush. This is a great time because we're doing a big area to just double check. If you have a lot of paint on your brush, we want paint on this blue. So if you have a lot of paint on here, instead of putting it on the paper towel, which is just going to get thrown away, you can go ahead and wipe the extra paint on the area where you want the extra paint. So if you have a lot of blue on your brush still, we want to go ahead and wipe it on the blue area. That way when I wipe my brush on the paper towel, I don't have these big globs of paint. There's just a very small amount that's coming off. So once you see a lot of white speckles, you have most of the paint off, and we can go ahead and rinse it in the water, maybe 10, 15 times, making sure that you're painting the bottom of the cup. We can go ahead and we can get the extra water off, and we can double check it to make sure that no paint is coming up. I can spike my hair up to keep my brush looking and painting very nicely. And I'm done cleaning brushes, so I'll move my water out of the way. I'll move my paper towel. If your paper towel is getting really messy, you can go ahead and just get a new one and throw this one away. this one's still pretty good. I'm going to use it. I'll let it dry off to the side, and I'll use it when I move on to my next box. So after box 1, we're going to move into box number 2 with the same things. I don't want to use blue because I just used blue. I don't want to use turquoise, and I don't want to use tan, but any other color can be used. So I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to use orange. Again, another color that I have not used. So it's going to help create this very nice, bright picture, just like a pop artist would when they were painting their pictures. We're going to go back to our small brush and we're going to outline everything again. Mr. O made a mistake on the first one, so I'm going to show you what I forgot. When I dip just the tip, when we look through the donut, we're going to see the background. And we forgot to paint the background on the first one, so we'll go back later and fix that. So when I'm outlining my donut, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to outline the inside of my donut hole with my small brush. And because this is a small shape, I can still use the same brush, and I can go ahead and I can fill that shape in with my small brush. Once that small shape is filled in, we can go ahead and just like we did in box number 1, we're just going to build a wall of paint with an outline around our donut, and this is going to help us from getting paint on top of our donut when we use a larger brush. Once we've outlined the outside and the inside of the donut, we're going to go ahead and go around the inside of our box. I like to start right here on the bottom because I can see that nice line. We don't have to worry about going along the sides because the paper ends, so we don't need to worry about paint getting on part of our picture that we don't want it. Now I can go alongside my blue. Just to say, hey, this is where my orange is going to stop before I go on to my blue square. There shouldn't be a lot of paint on this brush because it's small and we're using a small amount of paint, but I still want to get any extra globs off. There was a little bit, but not too much. And once my brush looks pretty dry, I'll go ahead and I'll rinse it in the water. And I'll dry it off. spike up my hair. And now it's ready for the next time that I need it. We can go ahead and go back to our big brush for our big area. We'll dip, just the tip. We'll pull, lift, and we'll fill in the rest of our square. Remember, if you have a lot of paint on your brush, let's go ahead and just put that on our painting. And once our brush is pretty dry, we'll just get any extra off on our paper towel. Then we can go ahead and rinse it in the water, painting the bottom maybe 10-15 times. We'll get the extra water off. We'll check it. I see no orange, so I can spike up my hair very gently, and it'll be ready for me to use or the next student. I can move my water, my paper towel out of the way, and I can go ahead and move on to box number 3.